What's up? What's up? What's up? It's your boys, Josh and Matt. We're back at it. This is episode 4 of the Mind Vault podcast. Coming to you recorded
Yeah.
as always. Yeah.
What's up? What's up?
Yeah, it's definitely been a little while, a couple of weeks since the last episode, but we're getting another one out here.
Dishing them out.
Yeah, things have been definitely, interesting. We had a new experience together, which I'm excited to talk about, which
Oh yeah.
is
I was like, what? Oh,
yeah, which is we went to the gun range together. We shot some guns.
yeah. The bang things that go bang.
Things that go bang.
Boom bang.
What did we shoot? We got the M9, the Beretta M9, and then what was the revolver that we got?
It was a 357 revolver, but I don't remember which brand. And then we got the Steer AUG or
I think it's Steyr.
Steyr AUG.
Yeah.
Pretty cool shooting that rifle.
Yeah, that thing was loud.
Hell yeah.
It was my first time in a while shooting guns. I went to the range. I don't know, maybe I was definitely under 21 because I couldn't rent a handgun at the time. So I think it was 10 years ago. I think.
Nice.
That makes sense. It was shortly after high school. But yeah, which, I went with my buddy Mo, which he went with us during our incursion as well. Shout out to Mo. He's a pretty chill dude. I've known him for a long time, since kindergarten, I guess. Although it was weird because he got held back in first grade because he needed glasses. So we had kindergarten together, and then we never had another class together after that. But we would just hang out.
Nice.
There was this one time because he went to the tech school, and we went to the regular school, and so there was this one time when we were in high school where we had a week off for, I forget if it was Easter or something, but it was some kind of break where we had off on one week and they had off the following week or the previous week. And so basically what we did was, when he had his week off, he literally lived at my house for a week. Where I was going to school every day and he was just hanging out at my house. Probably with my mom, just hanging out. He was probably playing Call of Duty or whatever we were doing at the time. And then I would get home from school, and then we would hang out for the rest of the day, and then I would go to bed, and I would wake up in the morning, go to school, and he would just hang out. And I'm sure my mom fed him, because that's what she does. She feeds people. And then the following week, when I had off, I went to his house. And then he went to school, and I just like hung out in his house. But not as extensively as he hung out in my house. But yeah, we've known each other for a long time, and so it was actually probably our first time hanging out in like nearly 10 years. Like, we've seen each other like here and there, like he would come over for a party or something like that, but it wasn't like anything where like we were hanging out. It was just kind of a gathering where people are coming together.
Right.
So it was good to hang out with him again. And he was the last person that I went to the range with. So I figured, let's bring him along. He also used to work at the range. He was a range safety officer there.
The one we just went shooting with?
Yeah, that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's who I'm talking about.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Playing Xbox with him, right?
What?
Were we playing Xbox with him?
Were we playing Xbox with him?
Yeah.
No.
Not Insurgency? We weren't playing...
No, that was my brother.
Oh. Oh, man, I got these mixed up.
Yeah. Yeah, those are two different people.
Shit. My bad.
No, you're good. But yeah.
The whole time I thought I'm talking to him. I'm like, yeah, I take.
Really? Oh my God.
It's like he's got experience. Oh no.
I mean, my brother can be a tactical guy. He's definitely a type A personality. Like, he probably has the tightest butthole, like, figuratively speaking, like, in the universe. Like, dude needs a massage, if I'm being honest.
No.
But, yeah, he can be pretty high strung sometimes. But, like, there's been times when we will get in an argument on the phone when we're agreeing on something. We'll disagree to agree.
Yeah, no, that's what brothers do. Yeah, I do the same thing with my brother. Like,
yeah, where it's like we're trying to make the same point, but we're arguing
who has the better.
Who has the better explanation for it.
Yeah.
So we went to the range. We got 2 lanes, and we got the hookup because of Mo, and he got us in there a little early. But I feel like, should we shout out the range? I feel like
Mo bitches.
I feel like we should shout out the range. Like, I feel like 2 Second Amendment based things.
I mean, like, I like shooting the range. I mean, I don't know if they like people shouting them out, but go for it. I mean,
yeah,
they're cool.
But yeah, it's a Heritage Guild in Easton, Pennsylvania. Shout out to Pennsylvania gun laws.
Yeah. Bring them to New Jersey.
Yeah, way better than New Jersey.
Bring them to New Jersey.
Yeah. But which ironically, the range is primarily in New Jersey, because it has 3 locations, and 2 of them are in New Jersey, and then 1 is in Pennsylvania. But they do all the cool shit in Pennsylvania.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
I think one of the New Jersey ones is like mainly an archery range, which I'm sure New Jersey's all fucking butthurt over archery too, because they'll just find any excuse to be butthurt about, like, utility items. Like, you hear about, like, politicians are getting butthurt over gas stoves now.
What's so wrong with gas stoves?
Of course, like, can you guess it's the global warming apocalypse?
Psychopaths. What's wrong with them?
Yeah, like, I think California.
They just don't want. It's like that. It goes to like You know, like when conspiracies kind of come out realistic, like
Yeah, which is
Like,
happening more now
when
than
they're like, "Oh, we
than
gotta get
ever.
rid of the fossil fuels, and airplanes," or like there's like something called like thin air or clear air, where like it's just so clear because of the global warming. The plane has bad turbulence, and people are getting fucked up. They're flying, getting injured in landings when they're going to Hawaii or someplace like that, and like. I don't know. They're called. I just see all this weird sus shit, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I did read about that one plane had like major turbulence, and like a bunch of people got injured.
Yeah, just weird shit. But yeah, I don't know. I just
Yeah,
it's
but
very weird.
like you know how California, they did the
Like going back to the gases and stuff. Just another
mhm.
thing, like as in like going towards that into global warming. Just very.
Yeah, they're trying to make
Come on.
everything about global
I know,
warming,
come on. Like,
which is arguable at best. And the human impact on that is arguable at best. And in reality, the American impact on that is probably one of the lesser impacts on the planet. Where, like, in reality, China creates like 95% of the Earth's pollution. Like the trash island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean is not because of us. It's because of China. Because they just like throw shit in the river, and then that goes into the ocean, and then it collects in the middle of the ocean because of the tides. Like there's whole rivers that are dyed blue because there's a blue jean factory next to it, and they just let the dye from the jeans just leak out into the river. Like they really don't give a shit there. Although ironically, they're the ones that push a lot of this world, you know, like global climate crisis stuff. Like they're actually a big reason why a lot of these European countries, like Western European countries, are having an energy crisis now because of the Russia stuff. Because like over the last few years, they've been having these global climate accord meetings where they come together and they talk about climate change, like all the world leaders, and probably Bill Gates because he's a fucking asshole. Like, so, and they, China has been pushing like, you guys got to go green. You guys got to go green. We got to save the planet. Like, they're like pushing this agenda in these meetings, even though that they literally follow none of it. And so they basically convinced all these European countries to go green, wind turbines and solar powered stuff, which isn't inherently bad, but it's not usable enough and sustainable enough at this point to be the only thing you're sourcing from. And so even when you go green, you still need to use oil for stuff. Where like you can't, like, yeah, they might have cut down their oil usage for electricity, or their coal usage for electricity, you know, by a small margin by incorporating more solar and wind farms. But it's not enough, so they still have to get like fossil fuels from somewhere. And so because they're no longer doing it there in their own country, they had to source it from Russia because that was the nearest thing. They could have sourced it from the US, except the US government is also in on this weird global climate change thing, except that we push back on it more, which is why we're not Europe right now. Also, we have our own oil, and plenty of it. We could be self-sufficient on our own oil, our own fossil fuels. but it's this like idea of like, well, as long as we don't do it and we source it from some shitbag country, like even the batteries for an electric car, it's sourced from lithium mines in Africa, and it destroys the area, and it's totally not sustainable. So electric cars just as unsustainable as a regular car. But it pushes this weird narrative. And, you know, we talk about our conspiracies, and I think this is one of those things where the people who are doing the actual policy, I think, don't even know what they're doing. And I think that there are the global elites, to put it in Alex Jones's words, which has now become a pretty common term these days. But you know,
Mayday, going down. You got it.
okay. So like the World Economic Forum, which is happening or was happening in this last week or so. Like, do you remember last year they were, you had Klaus Schwab, and he was saying like the people are gonna own nothing and be happy about it.
Own nothing and be happy.
Yeah, they're gonna eat bugs and they're gonna live in little commie shacks.
And his bust of Lenin.
Yeah.
His little bust of Lenin. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't want anything you want to offer. Or your organizations.
Yeah. So, like, it's like those people where, like, in reality, I theorize, and I would like to clarify, this is a theory. I'm not claiming this to be true. But one of my theories, based on the historic precedent of both communist countries in general and specifically the Chinese government when it comes to the Communist Party, has a history of subterfuge and getting under other governments' skin and like playing with stuff. Like they're constantly hacking companies and stealing stuff, even for like the stupidest shit. Where it's like, we're just going to make counterfeit iPhones and have a counterfeit Apple company in China where like even the employees don't know that they're not actually working for Apple. Down to like real actual, like national security threat type shit. Where like, I mean, even the pandemic has some of that into question because it clearly came from the lab. Like, that's common knowledge now. That's not even a conspiracy anymore.
Yeah, they can't take that.
They basically said it.
They can't, even when they told them, no one gave a fuck.
Yeah.
At first, people would be like, "Oh, that's outrageous and racist and all these ridiculous things," but then like, I don't know.
Yeah. So like,
there's always some shady shit anyway. It's never clean.
Right.
I don't think it's just them. I think there's multiple.
Well, yeah, there's clearly. Well, the U.S. was involved in reality. So it comes into question. Is some of this climate stuff subterfuge where like they've been setting up Europe for years now to push this green stuff, and now you have Russia doing all this Ukraine stuff, and now, oh, well, if you're going to be against Russia, now you have to sanction against them, which means you can't get their oil now. But over the last 5 or so years, like, we've been pushing you to become dependent on Russia's oil. And so now, like, we're putting you in a position where, in order to seem virtuous to the situation, you have to say, like, oh, we're not going to use it anymore. And so, like, now Europe is in some tough shit. Where, like, they literally, like, there are people that have gone back to, like, heating their homes with wood furnaces. And, like, burning animal feces. Like, where they collect their, like, their dog and cat shit. And, like, dry it and turn it into burnable fuel. I think other animal shit as well. And so, like, they're literally going back to, like, primitive energy consumption where, like, they're
horrible.
Yeah, you know,
Holy shit.
because they can't get access to, you know, their whole infrastructure, you know, the stuff that had to continue running on oil was all created to burn oil, and so now they're like, well, we can't get that anymore. So now, like, we live in Western Europe, it gets cold as hell here. Like, if we don't heat our homes, we're literally gonna die. Where, like, they don't live in, like, the southern United States where, like, oh yeah, we can't warm our homes during the winter. That's alright, I'll put a jacket on. Like, you can't do that in Europe. And so, in reality, they're actually closer to Canada in climate than the United States. And so, in reality, they've been put into this position. And in reality, the current U.S. government, whether through, like, I believe that most of the people that push these policies, they're trying to push the same policies or similar policies as they've been doing in Europe for the past 5 years. In fact, you can actually see a lot of the stuff that has happened or is happening in America now, like, already kind of happened in Europe, like, a few years ago. Like, they're kind of like 3 to 5 years ahead of us in terms of policy trends. And so, the majority of the politicians that are pushing this climate stuff, I think, are totally ignorant to what I theorize is probably the situation, where, like, they genuinely have been fed this propaganda to believe that forcing everyone to use electric cars is going to save the planet, when in reality it doesn't do that, because it's not actually sustainable like they think it is, and it is damaging the planet, and we're going to run out of lithium before we run out of oil, and we can't just change our infrastructure like that. We can't just stop using oil. Like, the technology isn't there even if we wanted to. And so all it really will do is destabilize everything. It already is destabilizing everything, because look at the gas prices. They're so high.
Right.
And so that's affecting everything. Prices of everything. You know, it's causing mass inflation on everything. And so we're already seeing the first steps of the degradation of our infrastructure, just because they're, like, being, like, poopy buttholes about, like, using our oil. And so, like, it's a question of, and here's back into the theory territory, given if China or the larger communist agenda had like some like malintent specifically, where, you know, a lot of people are calling this Cold War II, you know, especially with the whole Russia stuff. You know, it's the first time in, 40 years that we've had the threat of, nuclear whatever.
Right.
You know, like it's the 80s all over again.
There's some fucked up shit going on in Ukraine.
Yeah.
They're dudes are cross-dressing. It's like they're straight up like having a lot of casualties. That they're straight up like Gestapo, like picking you up and abducting you and just recruit you. And then I saw another video of like soldiers at gunpoint going into your house. Get in the car, we're gonna recruit you to fight a battle you can't win.
Yeah. I mean, they are being invaded.
I heard
So-
it was like 100 something, 160 something, and then only 20,000 Russians. So it's like a huge like.
Yeah, which there are also
It doesn't help that we're
private contractors out there too.
right. There's just a lot of there's so much funding to them. I'm not saying it's us, but like maybe. But
It is us. We sent them
so we're
tens of billions of dollars.
Their genocide, which sucks.
Yeah, because I mean,
Literally, I don't know, because they're not gonna. It's sad, but like I don't know how to put that into like. It's just very like we've seen this before in history, but it's just like it's just more. I don't know. It's just more perverted now. It's always been perverted. Never mind.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's always been
But, like,
perverted, but
it's just so weird.
we're
see
used
it
to the
like
glorified version.
It's so weird to see it like this and like, go down like this and see all these people go down like it's just nasty, man. I don't know.
I mean,
But it is what it is.
it's actually a very similar situation to World War One, because I was curious.
Hybrid cross between 1 and 2. I feel.
Yeah, like it's because like it's a combination of the like weird territorial thing that was going on at the beginning of World War II. Surrounding Poland, and like this sort of battle between Germany and Russia for Poland, which is basically how World War One kicked off. I mean World War II, but I was reading about World War One because sometimes I'm like, I remember things from school. Or just like what I'm a history guy. I like history.
Yeah, me too.
And so I'll like remember something that I read. I'm like, well, like where like I'll see like a modern situation like Ukraine,
Right.
and I'll be like, this seems like really familiar.
Yeah, me too.
And so I was like, this seems like something I read about World War One. So I went and I looked it up, and I was like, I looked into the clarification of like what were the actual starting, because everyone knows the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. That's what you learn in the history book.
That's like what
in
set it
school,
off, right?
Yeah, but in reality, that wasn't the first. It wasn't just like that happened. It wasn't this isolated incident. Like they make it seem like the simplified school version is like, they assassinated this guy, it kicked off the war, and it's like, whoa, like as an adult who like taking a specific interest in historical events, like it's like wait a second, like how does that start a global conflict?
Right.
I'm like, that can't be the only thing. And so I
Something
looked
with like rubber and supplies. I don't know. Like
well, it was like it started as a conflict between Austro-Hungary, which is basically one country that is now Austria and Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
And the Ottoman Empire, where there was, I forget which country it was, because after the war it became an actual country, but essentially a part of the Ottoman Empire declared independence in a similar way that the Ukraine is saying, Russia's saying, Ukraine, you're actually Russia. Like, we own you, we already owned you. Like, we don't see your independence as valid. And they're saying, no, it is valid. Go suck a dick. Which is how every independence starts. Because no, like, I hate the term, but colonized country, colonizer country, whether it's England or Russia or whatever, Rome, allows the independence of a part of their empire. Where like the United States didn't go, we're an independent nation, we're the United States of America, and we're no longer under the rule of King Edward, or I think it was King Edward. And England was like, what the fuck do you think you're doing, bro? Like, you think you're not. We own you. You can't just take the shit. It's not yours. And so every independence, generally speaking, although post the American Revolutionary War, England did eventually kind of just secede most of their empire. So like India, for example, was just kind of like let go. Now, it wasn't clean, because then they ended up having a civil war immediately after, which is how Pakistan got formed.
Oh, wow.
It's called the Great Divide, I think. Or just the Divide. Or the Division. That's what it is. And so, essentially, this country in the Ottoman Empire said, yo, we're independent. Right? That's normal. That's how every independence happens. And then Ottoman Empire goes, the fuck you think it is? Like, hell no. But Austro-Hungary went, we recognize them as their own country. And Ottoman Empire is like, excuse you? You don't have the authority to do that. Like, this is our land, not yours. And they're like, we don't care. We're on their side. And they're like, are we about to do this, bro? Are you? They're taking their shirts off and they're flexing their muscles, and they're going like, "What you think you're doing?
Digging the trenches.
What you think you're doing?
Getting the howitzers. And
yeah.
I don't know.
And so,
cannons.
Yeah. And so they start moving weapons in, aiming their artillery, all that kind of shit, and start moving forces in. And it starts as a local conflict between Austro-Hungary and this independent nation and the Ottoman Empire. And then, and this is partly why Germany takes some blame for World War I. This is part of the justification for why they blame Germany in World War I. Is essentially Germany, because they had ties to Austro-Hungary, because they speak German there, especially in the part of Austro-Hungary that is Austria now. And so they basically were like, all right, we'll help you a little bit. And it started as like, we're not going to actually fight, but we'll give you some resources, we'll give you some money, we'll let you duke this out. And then it fucking, and then it escalated to a degree that Germany had to get involved for real. But Germany had a couple alliances with other countries. And those alliances basically said, if Germany gets involved in a war, like, we have to help you. And so when Germany had to get involved, which they originally had no intention of getting involved, it dragged a bunch of other countries into it. And those countries had alliances with other countries. And it dragged more countries in. Until all of Europe was at war. And the United States wasn't involved because they were totally isolationist at that point. Like, they didn't really do a lot of international business. They were pretty much, that was like one of the last times that America, the United States, was purely the United States.
I know some guy from like UK convinced him to go into the war.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember who.
Specifically.
Some guy from Europe traveled to the UK and then traveled to America.
Yeah, and essentially, it also became this thing of like, the politicians of the time in America started to become they were globalists, essentially. And so they were like, well, Europe is going to be absolutely obliterated off the face of the earth, and they're not going to come here. Like, they're not going to travel all the way to the United States to start conflict over here. Also, our country is as big as the entirety of Europe. They're definitely not going to come here. And so essentially they were incentivized because they knew that like they were going to have the only industry left on the entire planet. Because all of Europe, the entire Western world, was going to be in crumbles, literally. All the farming fields are destroyed because they were turned into trenches. Half the buildings are blown up. So that was basically like the moment that like the like American globalists came into power. And in reality, we've seen a huge decline in the long term in the infrastructure of the United States. Like, yes, was the 80s a good economic period in America? Yes. Was the 50s a good economic period in America? Yes. But in reality, when you look at the long term, like, even though we, like, on paper are the most successful country on the planet, our actual infrastructure doesn't exist anymore. There's barely any businesses here. There's no manufacturing here. It's impossible for us to be independent, to be self-sustaining, because
we shot ourselves in the foot a long time ago.
Yeah, and we basically spent 100 years globalizing our infrastructure to the point that it's no longer in America anymore. And so, like, where, the job, in reality, most of the jobs went away. And, especially after the 80s, because everything became totally deregulated because of Reagan. Because he was like he's a conservative, but in reality he was like a hardcore libertarian. And so to the point that he wanted the government to have so little power that they couldn't even enforce like the free market anymore. Which is like inherently what America is like we're supposed to have a free market where like the government is like is not interfering in the supply and demand of the country, but is making sure that businesses are held to that standard. And in the 80s they basically got rid of that. And so it was like businesses could largely do whatever they wanted. They started doing a lot of really shady stuff, especially like the paper trail kind of stuff. They start setting up, like shell corporations and like doing like stock fraud and, like Enron shit, where they're just like totally falsifying all their documents and like doing a bunch of insider trading.
Nah, never. That's crazy.
Yeah, you're going to check out Enron. Essentially, like they had a bullshit company that wasn't making any profit, but they falsified all the documents to make it seem like the business was profitable. And what that did was it rose the stock price of the company. And so all the stockholders, like their stock prices, their stock investment went up. And the heads of the company that knew that the company was fraudulent, like basically pulled all their money out at its height. And then it came out like, oh yeah, it's a fake business basically, but they made all the money, and then the business tanked. And so they basically made, billions of dollars from the stock market by insider trading their own company that they basically falsified. And so, like, there was a lot of that kind of stuff. That was, like, the biggest, most notable thing. But things like Bernie Madoff came out of that kind of thing. With, it's just, like, shady. Like, you give us money, and then we'll invest it for you, and then, like, you'll build a portfolio. Or FTX. Just like that. If you read about the FTX stuff, where like essentially like people were paying into this cryptocurrency, and then like they're supposedly making all these profits on their cryptocurrency, FTX cryptocurrency, and like essentially what they did was they took all the money and that people paid into the same. You like go on Coinbase,
right,
and you put in, $100 to buy Bitcoin or whatever. People pay in for their FTX cryptocurrency, and so it's supposedly raising in value, where like if you were to cash out your money, you'd make more money back. But the problem is that they didn't actually invest the money in anything. In fact, they donated a large portion of it to the Democratic Party. They were actually the second highest donor to the Democratic Party.
Of course.
Behind George Soros.
Of course, they're gonna use currency to get people to, and then there's political parties are so sneaky and stingy, man. Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and so essentially what happened is there was a whistleblower that was like, hey, like this is actually what's going down at FTX. So people started catching wind of it, and they went, oh fuck, I need to pull all of my FTX cryptocurrency out now. Like, give me my money. So like, say you put in $100 of this FTX crypto, and by the time you were gonna pull it out, it was worth, $5,000.
Wow.
And you're going like, give me my $5,000. They basically were like, we don't have that money, because it didn't actually go up in value. We just donated all the money to the Democratic Party / our facilities in the Bahamas where we have weird sex parties with each other.
What the fuck? No, see, this is like the part I didn't hear.
Yeah,
That's
like
crazy.
it was like, you ever hear the term polycule?
I've heard it once.
It's like polyamorous, like multiple partner, where it's like this person is dating this person, like, and this person and this person, and that person is dating that person and that person,
No.
and it's like molecule. It's like polyamorous and molecule mixed together, because like molecules are like, the circles with the sticks.
Yeah.
It's like, that's like the visual representation of a polyamorous polycule. And so apparently like the people who were like running FTX were like a weird polycule, like polyamorous, like I don't even know, like
leftist polyamorous.
Yeah, like
Just like
they're like banging each other or whatever. Like they were like a weird like orgy like thing. Like they would like fuck each other.
it's funny how like they got what they wanted by tricking all those people to invest in
Yeah,
it's a criminal act that they got away with it.
kind of.
But
I mean, it's not really resolved yet. The weird thing is that like the head of the company got arrested, but then he used the money he had from his fraudulent business to bail himself out. And like now he's back in the Bahamas, and so it's this thing of like, are they gonna be able to get him, or like is he just gonna run off with all this money? Because like they didn't take the money yet. Like they have to take him to court and like find him guilty in order to like deem the money as like illegal money that they have to like essentially, I guess there's some way of returning the money. It's probably a hell of a process, but there is some degree of returnability. If somebody steals your TV and they get arrested and they find your TV, like they're gonna give you the TV back eventually. And so that you have to get reimbursed for your damages. And so, but until then, he still has all this money. So it's like, is he just gonna like run off with all this money and like hide in some country we can't extradite him from? Like,
that happened before.
Yeah, where like the thing with Bernie Madoff, because essentially Bernie Madoff did the same thing but with regular money. Where he was basically like, yeah, I'm gonna take this money. You give me money, and I'm gonna invest it for you, and then like you'll make money off of the investments, and then you can cash it out, and we'll give you the money back plus whatever you make. And then he just like was spending the money on whatever bullshit, like hookers and blow, like I don't know, whatever billionaires fucking spend money on, like weird
rituals,
like hostile, like I'm gonna go into a room and I want to murder somebody, like like that kind of shit.
Yeah, that too.
Like
said all that.
I want to set a baby on fire. Like get me someone who can get me a baby to set on fire. Like whatever human trafficking shit the billionaires are into.
Yeah.
And so like when essentially what happened is when 2008 recession happened, is that everyone was like, oh shit, I need to pull my stocks out now. And so they're like, yeah, I want my money back. And he's like, fuck, I don't have it. Like, I spent it all. And so, like, he went to jail. Like, I think he died in prison.
I bet.
Because he got cancer.
Oh shit.
Which, like, good.
Yeah. He got lucky, I guess.
Yeah. But, I mean, he was in prison for a while. Although it was, like, billionaire prison, which is like a fucking resort. But yeah, like, essentially, like, oh yeah, I was like, how did we get on this topic?
I have no idea.
But yeah, so essentially, like, everything got so deregulated in the 80s.
Getting false advertising and using like currency.
Yeah, it was like money
charity,
manipulation. Yeah,
like false.
Yeah, and so essentially, like, the government was no longer able to enforce the free market.
Also, like, everyone's so concerned about like finding a new currency, but like not using something that's like valuable or self-sustainable. You need something that's physical. You need something that's like valuable.
Yeah,
you know,
like there's precious metals,
right?
Gold, silver,
right?
You know, that kind of stuff. But there's also like property, land, a home,
right?
Like, that is stuff that goes up in value, as opposed to like a car goes down in value.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Like, there's plenty of things that are physical things to own that have an inherent value.
Right.
That will appreciate over time, where most material things depreciate over time because they become broken down. You know, which obviously a house can devalue if you don't take care of it. There is a level of investment. It's a more complicated thing to own than like precious metals, because that's just like, yeah, keep it in a safe, you know.
Right.
Like, make sure it doesn't get stolen.
Right.
You know, but like, if you just like let your house get shitty, like, it's gonna be worth less, you know, unless you sit on it for 100 years, where like 100-year-old piece of shit is like, oh wow, this is kind of a cool house, I'm gonna renovate this, you know. But you know, versus like a house you had for 10 years and you just like let the cat fucking shit all over the floor, and like, or you know, you're a hoarder and have buckets of your own poop or something, like, then the value is gonna go down real fucking hard. Like, yeah, over here is the buckets of shit room. There's mold growing everywhere. Like, but yeah, like, it's definitely good to have physical. Like, that's why cryptocurrency is kind of bullshit, because in reality it's just an extension of the dollar, except it has no solidified basis in anything, where like it's been valuable for like this amount of time, versus like paper currency has been, you know, like valuable for like this amount of time, and then precious metals has been valuable for like since the beginning of man. You know, where like that has lasting value because it's always had value in the history of the human society, and it will always retain that value. Like, it's proved its worth.
Yeah.
Property has proved its worth, because that's essentially, property is the original thing, even before gold, because it's like, this is my land, this is where I live, this is where I'm going to raise my family, this is where I'm going to build my empire, this is where I'm going to fucking
farm,
this is where I'm going to sustain myself.
right?
You know, your property is the nation of your essence. One nation under Josh, one nation under Matt, one nation under a random audience member watching this. You know, if you own property, that is your mini nation.
Right.
You rule that nation with an iron fist.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and then, you know, it's the thing like technically we own the United States. You, me, everyone watching this who's a U.S. citizen. We all own this. This is our land.
Right.
We own it less than our physical direct property, but collectively, like, you live in a town, everyone who lives in that town owns that town collectively. You own a piece of that town. Just like if you have, you know, imagine you have a town and there's 2 people that live in that town, you own 50% of that town. The other person owns the other 50%. Just like you own a business with somebody, they own half the business. If 8 people own that business, you own 1/8 of that business. You can own more of the pie. If I literally own half of the town and it's my private property, then I own 50% and everyone else owns their particular sliver of it. You know, essentially it becomes this collective ownership. And so everything starts small and builds outwards. Where, like, you own your property, and then everyone who lives on your street owns that street, and everyone who lives on that block owns that block, and everyone who lives on that side of town owns that side of town. Everyone who lives in the town owns that town in smaller and smaller increments. Everyone who lives in that county owns that county. And so in reality, this is our country. This is our state, our town. Well, we live in different towns, but
Yeah.
you know, like, you actually own it. Not figuratively, literally. You own it. Period. We all own it. That's the point of the United States. The king doesn't own shit because we don't have a king. We own it.
I wish we did, man. Like, I think of, like,
Now, there are people that don't want us to think that.
you know, taxes. Like, we never really own our property at all. We're paying it.
Yeah.
You know, and then if we don't pay it, the bank can evict you out of your house. You know,
Yeah.
It's like,
That's why, in
it
reality,
doesn't feel like it, but I know what you mean.
yeah, like property tax, I think, is unconstitutional.
It's the devil.
Because that means
I think most taxes are, but yeah.
that means that you, in reality, never ever own your property
Right. Like,
outright. That effectively means you don't own property.
right.
So it's like, that's
It's hard to, like,
not a free market.
no.
That's communism.
Yeah. Well, they say we are a communist country, so I kind of believe it
Yeah.
for, like, a while.
Like, in reality, I think taxes, like, are meant to be, like, you've made this much money, so you're going to contribute. In fact, I don't even think it should be based on, I don't think it should be dependent on how much you make. I think you should just pay a percentage of what you make. Like, I think everyone should pay the same percentage, period. Where, like, if you have $1 billion, you pay 10%. You make $50,000, you pay 10%. Period. Like, because you're paying in a share of, because inherently, if you have $1 billion, you're gonna own more chunks of the United States. So you are gonna own more of the country. In literality, if you have 15 houses because you're a billionaire, you own 15 times more property on average than everyone else, who owns one house on one plot of land. Not even taking into account that the plots of land might be huge. So to pay more of, like, pay the same percentage but more money, technically, is fair. Because we're all paying into the infrastructure to make sure that it all works. Everyone in the town pays in to make sure that the school has teachers to teach the kids. Unfortunately, a lot of that power has been taken out of our hands by the government. But in reality, like, as citizens of your town, you are supposed to have control over the things that you pay for collectively. It's everyone's fair share to make sure that, or, like, the tax money shouldn't go to something at all, and you have to just deal with it on your own. If you own a car, you're not paying taxes to get a car. Like, just buy a car, and you own that car. But if you're going to have some public service, like a school, like, everyone should be able to control, like, what goes down in that school collectively to make a decision.
Not hide shit from parents and...
Yeah. Because in reality, the parents are the boss. They pay their salary. They pay the school board salary.
Right.
Like, they pay the union's salary. Because, yeah, the teachers are paying into the union, but we're paying the teachers.
I don't really like that system. I know we're so used to it, and it sounds outrageous to say, but, like,
I mean, I agree.
We don't have a family. We're not. It's like sad, kind of. It's like we can get that, as people can still live like that, but, like, it's like depending on everything of the government is just not a good idea, and I just feel like we're seeing all the side effects from these systems over the years, kind of like catapulting down upon us,
Yeah.
like tumbling down. I mean, like
I agree. Like, when it comes to school, I totally agree. I just use that as an example because it's the most common.
Right.
It's like up front.
Cool. Yeah, it's cool. I just think about stuff like that sometimes, like just crazy.
Yeah. I definitely don't think that people's education should be socialized. But, things like the roads, for example. Like, that should be socialized because it would be a huge pain in the ass if, like, every time there's a pothole in your road, you have to go to all of your neighbors, like, and collectively be like, all right, well, we called the local contractor who's going to work on the road, and they're going to charge us $5,000. So there's 8 of us on the road here, so we're going to split it 8 ways. Or like, well, actually, it's down on your end of the road, and I never actually go down on that end of the road, so I don't want to pay into this. Like, I don't want to use my money to pay for a part of the road that I didn't, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's where it becomes a huge pain in the ass, where it's like, all right, there's a little bit of, like, everyone has to make a little bit of sacrifice on some minor things. I think that school is a major sacrifice that we shouldn't be doing. I think that could be done a little bit more on an individual basis.
Right.
Either a collective of parents or the individual parents themselves, where it's like, hey, imagine, like, a group of parents, they're all friends or whatever, they all have kids together. Parents tend to coagulate together because that's just how society works.
Right.
And imagine, like, they're all, most people pay for daycare, for example, privately. It's not some, like, state sanctioned daycare, although I'm sure those exist to some degree, but, like, you're usually paying directly for daycare. And that tends to be the thing that, like, most parents tend to meet each other before the kids go to school. Where it's like, oh, you have a 2-year-old, I have a 2-year-old, blah, blah, blah. Like, where are they gonna go to preschool, blah blah blah, this and that. Imagine at that point, you get a collective of those parents who are socially connected, and they go like, all right, who wants we're thinking about hiring like a private tutor to like help with homeschooling and blah blah blah, where like you can have you're hiring a direct person 1-to-1. Like, we're like, let's be real, most parents probably couldn't handle actually homeschooling their kids. Most. I'm not saying all. There's plenty of parents that are probably
That's
capable.
Like we're too deep into like the system now to kind of go back to that. I just feel like the way we want to live our lives is kind of like not the average. So it's like it's not kind of what we want, and like what we not a lot of people do it, so it's not for everyone.
Well, and not everyone is an expert on anything,
right?
Which, like, that, I'm not saying like yes, there is a societal sort of impact of everyone's been publicly educated for 100 years at this point. But even on the casual level of like, sure, you can teach your kid basic math, but like I could probably teach my kid algebra because I'm decent at math. But like, could you teach your kid algebra? Probably not.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so like at that point, you hire a math tutor to come in who can actually teach them algebra or calculus, or which can allow you to get a specialist in where, like, if your kid excels in a certain area and they take a particular interest, you can make sure that they have quality education.
Yeah, it depends, because if you can find like a professional, but like I guess what I'm more talking about is like public school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I've had some good teachers in my lifetime. I had never like.
Well, imagine there was
some wise teachers before, like, they just got all weird.
Well, that's one of the problems, is that the quality of teachers goes down when the pay doesn't reflect.
I used to think that like paying for schools and doing that was like a good thing because we're going to get proper education, but clearly like we're showing the true things of what it's always been. So like, that's why I'm kind of like, yeah, sure, we can learn stuff, but we have the internet now too, so
yeah. Although you have to be careful with the internet,
which is right, but like you could still like, right.
Well, the resources are there.
Like if you know like a private teacher that you know and trust, that you.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the stuff that I would have no problem with.
Yeah.
Especially if they like them and that you've seen them teach before, and you know you're there and observing them. But like, because I've had tutors before and teachers, and they came over my house. My mom would like watch and just like, you know, let it do a thing, and it was always professional and like. It was fine. Because you kind of get more of like a more to the point, hands-on, like there's no interior motive or agendas, you know, and it's just strictly on the subject you're going in for, and that's going away. I don't know. I don't really see that anymore. But I have no problem with that. I just think that if a society can do parents and the combination of that, it'd be a lot more beneficial than public school and not all that shit. But
well, like, you know, but I think one of the problems.
But that's like, you know, it's not for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things where, like, we've been dug so deep into the way of doing things that it would be a major overhaul. Right. You know? But, you know, I like to view things from, like, the final... I won't make that joke. The final step... I was going to use the word solution. But from the final step backwards, where, like, I'm always thinking what is like the final picture, and then I work the steps backwards. Where like, imagine this: you're in a world, where there are no schools, formal like state schools, public schools, not even private schools, in the way that they are now. Think of this world. There's no teachers that work at a school. The parents collectively in the community, they sort of source private tutors who are now teachers, but in this future scenario, they're just experts in a subject. Math, science, English, whatever. And you pay them to come in, and you could even do this in the afternoon. You don't have to do it in the morning, so people can go to work. And then you come home, and you're there, and the tutor comes over, and they do school in the evening. Or you have collectives of kids that come together, and perhaps at one house of the collective, you could have a rotating. And I'm getting the specifics don't really matter. It would be up to the parents themselves to figure it out. They can go over the broad kind of subjects, and then if little Timmy is really, really good at science, and he really likes science, and he really likes chemistry, well, now you can go find a chemistry tutor and focus on that with Timmy and make him the best chemist ever. And imagine that for 100 years. What society would look like after that, where everyone is an expert in whatever drives their natural ability. So if you're very interested in music as a child, you can get private music instruction, where now that becomes the focus. Sure, you're gonna learn the other stuff. You're gonna have the base level knowledge, but where school now does not allow people to excel in whatever they're passionate about, because you have to meet the state requirements,
Right.
so that you can pass the NJASC, or the SATs, which are run by sketchy, for-profit driven, companies that make a ton of money licensing these tests to the schools, and creating corporate partnerships with universities, so that you have to take the SAT to go to college. But so if you wanna go to college, pay $80 and come to school on a Saturday and take this test that doesn't actually test anything. And then we're gonna have different standards for different people anyway, so it doesn't matter. Like, if you're Asian, go fuck yourself. You have to get a perfect score, or else you're not getting into college. If you're black or Latino, you don't even have to take the test, and fuck white people. White people aren't even allowed to take this anymore, and it's just it doesn't mean anything.
What the fuck is all that shit?
Yeah, it's all this
That's
money.
crazy.
It's like this weird money laundering via education. The more and more that the government has gotten their hands in it, where it used to be more localized. Towns had curriculums. The schools dealt with their own curriculums. And then it became oh no, the state has to decide your curriculum. The state has to mandate your curriculum. So now, and especially once Obama came into office, it got really, really bad, because then they started doing what's called Common Core, and it all became about, let's teach to the tests, because now, if in order to get funding, you had to have high scores on your testing. So, like, we're just going to teach to the test now. Like, you know, it used to be back in the day, oh, you really like working on cars? Well, we got an auto shop, like, classes here at the school. Like, you can do that stuff. If you want to be a welder, we got welding classes. You know, if even for women back in the day, like, they had classes that taught you how to cook, how to sew, how to, you know, like, do, you know, housely duties. If in reality you just planned on being a housewife, which is perfectly fine to be, by the way, like,
Yeah.
like, you could learn those skills. You learn skills, not just, can you recite this bullshit? Can you recite these math formulas you're never going to use because you're not interested in math, like, you're interested in history, like, or you're interested in writing, like, you know, now you have to, you know, now it's just the standard core. That's why arts programs get cut. That's why all these extracurriculars get cut, because it doesn't serve the tests. We're not going to put money into these things because we're going to pump every dollar we have into making sure that everyone scores as high as possible on these bullshit tests that are all run by the College Board. I forget what the company's called, but they run all the state testing exams. Remember, we would, like, go in the gym and have, like, all the tables set up in the gym, and we would take those, like, standardized tests.
I think so.
Like, it would be like 3 days straight of taking these tests, and they were, like, super anal.
Yeah, I remember those annoying tests.
Yeah. Or like the SAT. It's all.
I was looking at
It's all, yeah. It was all run by the same company. Like, and that's what school is now. It's a standardized test because everyone's got to be homogenized. Everyone's got to have the same thing. We're all individuals, though, guys. We're all individuals. You can be whatever you want to be. But
you have to be the fucking same.
But everyone has to be the same. It's like, well, there seems to be a mixed message here. Like, do you want us to be all individuals? We can do and be whatever we want, or do you want us to be the same? Because
it's like life's some creepy occult reverse.
Yeah.
Psychology. Just do everything the opposite, and
yeah,
you'll be all right.
Like,
it's terrible. I don't know.
It's so funny because the counterculture of the past has now become the mainstream, and now to be counterculture, you have to be like a normal person, like interested in like
normal, but like. It's like hard. It's like a weird. It's like you gotta be like. Normal, but like you don't want to be too normal that you're just like oblivious to things either. You want to be like.
Yeah.
Sane.
Yeah.
And aware, like you're aware of your surroundings, and you just you know what's going on, but like. You're just gonna just do you know? Like...
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, things like, you know, it used to be taboo to be tatted to death, you know, and have face tattoos and...
Colored hair.
Neck tattoos and colored hair and weird haircuts and crazy clothes and, like... Right.
Now it's like...
That's normal. Like, people who work for the government... are like that.
I don't really like having tattoos anymore. I just noticed that I don't care about them.
Yeah,
I'd rather just not. I don't regret it, but like
I think tasteful tattoos are all right. You got an arm tattoo, or You know, people have been getting tattoos for a long time, but like, there's a certain threshold where like, it seems a little unprofessional.
It's just like, I just feel like like it became a thing of like meaning and like or just it could be something from blood sport to like fucking meaning to like religion to now just like or just art, and then now it became like a university or like a frat. I don't know how to maybe that's a bad example. Maybe like it became like
a uniform.
like it became like a corporate job.
Yeah.
You know,
like where most
it was like
the equivalent of a suit and tie.
yeah. It was just like
like
I kind of just want to just dress like I'm like in the 40s again.
yeah, I mean there's something to dressing
I want to dress like
classy,
with like a suit and like a nice hat, maybe like or like a leather jacket and like a button-up shirt with like pocket holes and like overalls and shit like that. Get some nice black boots and a motorcycle. Maybe a nice hat. I don't know.
Yeah.
Damn, man.
Like people used to wear suits on airplanes
like that
and shit.
right now.
Yeah.
If I could, but it's expensive.
Yeah.
No, but I don't know. Like I don't even know what we're talking about.
I mean, it's always good to invest in a good suit though. Like at least having one good suit, or like like something that you can dress to the nines in. Like I got a good blazer.
Nice.
I
wanted to get one
some
before
dress pants.
I travel, so I definitely need to get something fresh.
Yeah.
Gotta go to the ball,
Yeah. Which I'll definitely send you some links to a YouTube channel that really is good at like helping to put together like a classic timeless style, like how to dress certain things up and down, and how to kind of put things together like and look nice in different different levels of casual and formal settings. But yeah, all right. It's an hour and 20 minutes.
Nice.
And I gotta piss so fucking bad. So let's wrap this up.
Let's wrap it up.
But
it's a good start, and I'm looking forward to do more, man.
Yeah.
A little warmed up. I'll get a little warm up to this run, but next time.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, it's always.
Shit.
I feel like it's always a warm up.
Yeah, it's good.
Like it's like it's a ball rolling down a hill. Like, but yeah. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned for another episode. Keep checking out those clips and shorts. And subscribe to us on YouTube. Rumble us on Rumble. And just keep follow us on Instagram.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram.
At Mindvault Podcast on Instagram. And just thanks for supporting us, the people that are supporting us, and tell your friends about this, and if you think that they'll be interested in this kind of thing. But yeah, so do you have any final thoughts?
Nah, it's just like and subscribe and share, man.
All right.
Have a good one.
Peace out.